Hey everybody, welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Gabe.
And I'm Idris. And for those of you with the video feed, I'm sorry, I'm like adjusting my camera.
It's
This
gone
should be
rogue.
good. This should be good for the recording.
It's
Yeah,
gone
and
rogue.
now
Yeah.
it's like blurry,
Look, everyone, we're real
blurry
people.
AF. But
We are
it's
not
all good.
perfect. This
Yeah.
is,
Uh,
despite popular belief of what you might think, we are not, we're not perfect here. And
yeah.
neither was this race, if we're honest. It was not, well, it was perfect for some people, but not
Yeah.
perfect for others. So yeah,
Yeah.
well, welcome everybody to our discussion of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Lord of the Wheels, Return of the Kings.
I actually kind of wanted to say it. Kangs, like
Record of the Kings. Dukes, Duchesses, all of them, all the nobles returning. If you don't know why we're referencing that, well, then you need to hop on the social medias because it is very apparent who has returned to the paddock. That is Danny.
Oh, you know what? I guess the title is kind of a triple entendre then.
Yeah.
Because like what I was going for was based off of the results of quali, right?
Sure,
and
sure.
and then the results of the race. But yes,
Sure.
we also have the smiling I don't know, not a grimace, just Danny Ricciardo's got a very like goofy smile that's lovable. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it was very nice to see that big old grin in the F1 intro.
Yes, although it's a less of a grin, that cartoon version of him that they have for the kids. That's like, I was looking at that and I was thinking, okay, wait a minute, is that supposed to be Danny Ricciardo, or was that like Nick DeVries and then they just said it's Ricciardo because they threw those together. Like, I don't know who did
It was weird, yeah.
They're not. I'm just gonna say they're not very good. They're okay, but
I
like
think some of them are good. Some are decent.
it looks like the same if you've seen a Kroger or like a Fred Meyer commercial.
Yes,
it's that level of simplistic.
Yeah.
And I would encourage everybody who's listening, if you have not, spend some time. You can watch like they do 2 seasons of it. McLaren for their like 50th, I think it was their 50th anniversary. Maybe it was 75th anniversary. I don't remember. They had a thing called Tuned, which they basically had an animated like mini cartoon series based around the history of their successful drivers and them as a team, and all of the animation of the characters is so well done. Like it's a perfect example of like characterization of people. Like their features are exaggerated in ways that they're instantly recognizable. And so you look at these ones that they posted for these new, and honestly, nothing like none of them looked like the people that they were supposed to be, really. Like with maybe like one or two, like I think Oscar Piastri looked kind of like him.
Oscar wasn't bad.
Oscar wasn't bad.
Yeah. And then the one that really
Bottas and Zhou were pretty much
those are good.
Them, right? I was a little upset that Alonso was not the one that, because they had that same formula where it's like one of them was smirking, and then the other one had like the goofy smile that like sort of duoed, like kind of yin yang, like goofy friend with like serious. I think like Zuko and Bolin from or not
Avatar
from Korra.
Oh yeah. The Legend of Korra. Yeah, not the Last Airbender.
No,
right?
that wasn't Zuko. Then who was it? Was it Zuko? It was Zuko, right?
No, Zuko is Last Airbender.
Then it was Bolin and who's
Dude, I can't even remember his name. Just the Angry Firebender. That's his name.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm gonna be roasted over the coals for not remembering. My brain hurts, everybody. But anyway,
Mako.
Mako and Bolin. That's right. It was Mako and Bolin. I'll see now. I can cut there. But that's the sort of dynamic, that they were going for. And it's pretty generic, but who knows? Hey, it's for the kids, whatever, it's not necessarily for us.
I think,
but I think it could have been better.
Okay. But like, honestly, real talk, looking at them, like they don't really look like them, right?
They don't know.
Alonso's wasn't good.
Dude, go to
Albon,
Alpine.
they completely missed the mark on Albon.
Oh yeah. Albon,
Lewis, the only reason you can recognize that as Lewis is because he's black and has cornrows, or he's a darker skinned avatar, which is messed up.
Yeah, they left out his like tooth gap, which is like one of the big defining characteristics of his face. You know, it's one of the recognizable things. Go to if you're looking at it, go to Alpine, because Albon and Gasly look nothing like who they actually are. It's like I was just so confused. I'm like, who are these two? I don't get it.
Oh yeah. They made like Ocon look like kind of like smoky and sultry. It's like he doesn't look like a Bond villain. What is this?
Yeah, not great, not great at all. But anyway, well, we didn't get a chance to enjoy the kids telecast, but we did get the adult show of Brundle and Crofty and all the commentators arguing back and forth, which is at this point very customary.
You think they argue a lot? Like
they definitely do in practice, and sometimes it's for really dumb things.
Yeah, I mean they could probably get bored though, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's true. Well, we'll definitely talk about some of the opinions they had, because there's some where we agree and there's some that we do not agree with them, and we will definitely get to that. But first,
would you say
let's talk about. Oh yeah, they're the cooks are in the back cooking them up, so they're not bringing them out to the front yet. I'm still munching on mozzarella sticks right here. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, let's talk about the give us our little track background here on Hungary.
Track background.
You did. Oh my God, that's like exactly the same clip that like you just did. That like that was perfect recreation of the clip that I used for that. That's perfect.
Or was it actually the recording? Ooh.
Oh yeah.
That's for the. I mean, if you're watching, you'll know what happened. So.
it's don't let him fool you. But yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about it.
So, here we are, folks. 23rd of July, the Formula One Qatar Airways Hungarian Grand Prix. So, okay,
Formula One Qatar Airways. What's the gas thing? Albacore or what's the other big sponsor that's all over the place? It's Qatar Airways. Aramco.
Yeah.
Yes. Formula One, Qatar Airways, Aramco, McDonald's,
Roxxon,
Chipotle, Roxxon, Chewless Tobacco, Marlboro, Hungarian Grand Prix 2023. All keep bussing.
The funniest keep bussing, bus it.
No cap.
You know what? Actually, you know what's funny about you saying no cap? Anytime I see the title of a Formula One race, it's always in all caps, and I see it and I read it as just like Formula One Qatar Airways Hungarian Grand Prix 2023. It
like
makes me think of Tim
Robinson. Oh, that's a good one there. Let's do that. I'm gonna Photoshop that his face and then just like Formula One Qatar Airways Hungarian Grand Prix. What was the other really long one? Oh, it was Imola.
Dude,
that would have been I think somebody did that actually.
Yeah,
now that I'm thinking about it. But
yeah, that's really funny. So yeah, the Hungarian Grand Prix takes place at the Hungaroring in Budapest, Hungary. Which, by the way, there was a really cool fun fact about it on the broadcast. I didn't realize that the city's only been around for 150 years after the merging of 3 other cities or city-states, maybe. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. Pretty fresh new country.
It is a pretty fresh new city, right?
Oh, city, yeah.
Yeah, city.
Yeah, it's a pretty fresh new city.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty full on cities in Hungary. Yeah.
We hungry.
Like I said, we hungry. Best racing movie of all time. Get at me.
Is he eating like a pie or something when he says that too? It's like a hand pie.
Yeah. So the first race at the Hungaroring was 1986. Your F1 driver with the most wins is Lewis Hamilton with 8. You know what's really funny about this too? I didn't even have to change the prompt here, right? From the last time we reviewed it. F1 driver with the most wins, Lewis Hamilton. Number of wins 8. Done.
Of course, done.
Yeah. I thought I'd have to change it after yesterday's quali, but you know that is something. Your fun fact for the Hungaroring, other than the fact that Budapest was formed 150 years ago, is that the first F1 race held at the Hungaroring was held behind the Iron Curtain. So for those of you that don't know what the Iron Curtain is, here is a short history lesson. All that side of the world, like Eastern Europe and Russia, were pretty much, they were all under like communist rule under the USSR, which is like, I actually don't even know how to properly pronounce it, but the Soviet Union. So at that point in time, there was not a whole lot of communication from that portion of Europe, that portion of the world outside, and vice versa, right? Like there was kind of a tight lid on communication. So
They
that was kind of
literally
referred
built
to as
a
Iron
wall.
Curtain. Yeah, and it was iron. No,
Yeah, and
actually, that's more Berlin Wall.
The
but
Berlin Wall. If for all the youngins out there, it was literally a wall that the Soviet era was a physical representation of the Cold War.
Yeah.
We don't want to see you. We don't want you in. We are not letting anybody over.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of a big thing that any kind of real major any sort of level of culture showing up from the West into the Eastern Bloc is definitely a historical thing. And fun fact, additionally too, apparently the Soviet people, or the people under Soviet rule, actually had their own Formula series. They had their own open-wheeled, yes, and it was basically they just hodgepodged cars together with like engines from like Ladas, and like they were just like nut and bolted together. Like it was very janky. They only had like certain tracks that they had built.
Wow,
like,
that's
it was
really cool.
real. There's a whole history about it. Most of the cars, I mean, this was like, in the 80s, and the cars looked like they were in the 60s or 70s. So like, it was definitely incredibly low tech, but it was something that they were, they were trying it, and they were doing it. And so there's a whole kind of classic sort of group of people that still drive these things around and take them to track days and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy. But
that's a piece of history. Would you call that like Soviet punk, like that?
I guess so.
Aesthetic? Yeah.
I mean, they were like using they were just using what they had available, which cars made in the Soviet Republic were not good. They were absolutely terrible. And so these things being kind of thrown together with whatever they had available was amazing. They were able to race anything at all. It was nuts. So, but yeah, the first race held behind the Iron Curtain.
That's what the Iron Curtain is.
Yeah,
it also makes me think of Ivan Drago from Rocky.
Yeah, right. It's not. He's a piece of iron. It's not literally an Iron Curtain. Obviously, it's all metaphorical, but you get it. It's like the idea. It's a big, heavy divide across.
And also, it wasn't a Cold War. As a child, I did not think that. I was like, why is there a war about temperature?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hey, that's Russia. Russia's cold.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, okay, snow. I guess that kind of checks.
Right. Yes.
Good thing we have history classes.
It's like this was the lukewarm war. This is the room temperature war. All right. Well, let's talk about arguably the most exciting thing about this entire race event.
Ooh, you think so? You think so? Damn.
This is where I put boo 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 boo. Like, oh, snap! Throw that in there.
Or like Steve Harvey looking like real like sideways at one of the contestants with that mustache.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I know that the results are like historic, and also I have my feelings about that. However, I think that this new change in the qualifying rules, I think was interesting, and I like the idea behind it.
I hear a butt coming.
What? No. There's no but.
Okay.
I think the only but is that Martin Brundle doesn't like it.
I'm sorry.
Martin Brundle.
I'm sorry. I only know F1 drivers from the last 5 years.
Oh, snap!
Combo breaker. No,
Oh,
I'm just annoyed about him
oh,
from last week. That
oh.
was some nonsense, dude, or a couple weeks back.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he goes back to just being like, I'm Martin Brundle and
Eh, yeah.
I talk about F1.
There's, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's funny. I don't usually mind Martin talking. Like, it doesn't,
Yeah, he's cool. He's fine.
but it's just, I don't. I just hope.
Yeah.
I hope there's no more. He needs to stop doing grid walks. Let's just
Yeah.
say that. But a lot of times his takes are a little more old school than
Hmm.
I'm thinking or I'm agreeing with.
So
But
old fajitas.
old,
So
yes.
something I wanted to say before you get into qualifying was that I actually thought there was some more exciting stuff that happened in the free practices, and that was the fact that Checo just bended immediately, right? Like
Yeah.
bended immediately, and also Lewis went fast as an FP3 after
Yep.
going like 17th and like 13th in the first two free practices, which is like,
Mhm.
what? You
Yeah,
found
something
something.
happened. Something
Yeah, you
clicked,
hit
yeah.
you hit the magic button. But also with Checo though, I can't imagine how that must have felt for him to like almost immediately crash, and
Right.
just carrying, because during qualifying, Crofty on the Sky Sports broadcast mentioned that both Albon of Williams and Sergio Perez of the dominant Red Bull team have the same amount of Q3 appearances thus far this season. I mean, after this qualifying, after this race weekend, clearly
Yeah.
he made it to Q3. But yikes.
Yeah. Yes. Um I also heard that Checo's pretty much used up most of his spare parts at this point. So he
Woof.
is yeah, definitely on pins and needles at this point. Just hodgepodging it together. Um
Mm.
there's a lot of comparisons. There's a lot of like, Ricardo's back and now, Checo his seat is heating up and I'm like, the silly season. Why
Yeah.
does it have to be so silly? Can we just, can we calm down with this a little bit? But yeah, no, that was definitely surprising, and I think that it's so hard with practice sessions and even qualifying sessions sometimes, which we'll talk about, where you know it's hard to tell whether or not the performance of a car is because somebody else is doing worse,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's the track getting better, or it's just like when Magnussen won that pole position.
Yeah.
It's like that was not necessarily because Magnussen did the fastest lap,
Mm-hmm.
but it was because of an external circumstance that made
Mhm.
it so that the rest of qualifying was nullified and he had it. So that's something you always have to keep in mind. You have to think about when it comes to some of these performances. So, but yeah, I would say, yeah, Checo is really kind of in a tough spot, really mostly because of his parts for his car. I
Yeah.
think that's the tough part. So,
Yeah. Doesn't help that he's in a pressure cooker environment too, you know?
Oh yeah. You must perform, or you will get kicked out.
For comparison's sake, apples to apples.
It's like it's. I know. That's it. Sound. I know that's like my Toto voice, but like the sort of like everybody has a target on the back. It's like that whole feel. It's like that feels like such Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway.
Yeah. So quali.
So qualifying. So they did a change in format for this qualifying session, and I did a little story about this. I really liked it when I heard it, because it's doing two things. It's working towards saving material. Because I think Crofty did the math. It's like if they were to do this for the next season going forward, this time next year they will have saved like 3,000 tires
Yeah.
or something,
Yep.
which is just like they'd save all this rubber, all these materials. It's like that. The idea to try and be more efficient, more energy, more earth friendly. Like I'm for that. Let's try and move that direction. But at the same time, it also gives a sort of strategic element into it, where you are literally trying to conserve your tires,
Mm-hmm.
only use what you can, and also do kind of level the playing field in a certain sense, because some cars are going to do better on certain tires than others, right?
Yeah.
So like if you just let them do whatever they're going to do, you're almost always going to see the low teams in the bottom and the faster teams on the top.
Mm-hmm.
I think with this, it just, I think it keeps it more uniform. I think it raises the stakes a little bit, and I feel like on certain levels it will even the playing field a little bit, because
Mm.
at least like, oh well, the Alfa Romeo's on the soft tires, so we know that lap is going to get deleted. It's like it almost makes it seem that like feel like if somebody does do a really awesome result in a qualifying session, it's not because they're on the faster tires. It's just that was actually genuinely faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's going to be interesting. And so one of the sort of mix-ups that happened that I think kind of, I guess you could say some people blamed the new thing, but I think it was just a matter of timing. It also speaks to another issue, and that is that Russell did not make it out of Q1.
Yeah.
And whether or not it was the strategy of the drivers, whether or not it was Lando who like went past Russell, that kind of, ruined his sort of warm up lap, the beginning of his warm up lap, so he didn't get a chance to get to the start finish line. I don't think it was the problem of the new format. I think it was a problem of the fact that we have these cars just go out on whenever they want to go out.
Yeah.
Rather than keeping that more organized, I do genuinely think it would be better if they had less cars on the track doing their qualifying. So like have more sessions, have fewer cars on track, and do it that way. I think that would be better.
We've talked about this before, right? How fun would that be at a race weekend to have two different qualifying sessions, right? Have one driver from each team out. So you have 10 cars on the track max, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know however you want to split it up, divvy it up, whatever, right? But then you give every team like you get 6 minutes or 5 minutes to, run a couple laps, get your best time in, right? Because what I also like about not having their teammates on track at the same time is that it would allow the driver to just do it on merit, just based on performance, not getting a tow from your teammate, right? Like how fast can you push your equipment, Like,
Sure.
Yeah, that's all I have to add to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only complaint that people would have with that is, and I can admit that this is a problem. This would be a slight kind of disadvantage. Is like if the track develops into the next session and the other drivers had already done their laps and everybody else is way faster, then because of the track evolving or whatever, then like I could see that being like a problem. But if you do it like elimination style, where you have clusters of people trying to go out there, put in their best lap, and then you kind of do almost like a tournament style thing where they kind of bracket in. I think it's just kind of part of it. I think it would just be part of, whatever the strategy is. I mean, if you're fast enough to move along, move on, then you're moving on to a time where the track is better. So your lap would potentially be faster. If you're not faster in that first time, then, well, there you go. Then you get your position. Yeah. I think it would be better for the sport all around. I'm tired of seeing these drivers impeding each other. I'm tired of these having to abort their warm-up lap because they made a mistake or something. It's just like the stakes should be higher.
Yeah. And the reason I'm like double, like, for those of you who can't see me, I'm like pumping my fist in like accordance with Gabe, is because this is what the sprint race should be, right? This like knockout style elimination type of thing that's way more interesting to watch versus me just watching a processional like race around, like mini race around the track. Like this is way more fun.
Stroll blocks somebody again. Okay, like oh well, like half the laps were aborted because Stroll was in the way and created a traffic. I'm like, ugh, it also would eliminate the events. Like it would be less likely that you're gonna have people causing the sessions to be completely yellowed or go off to block people, because there's less people on track. There's more likely that others are going to be able to get through. Okay, you're just eliminating variables, which is good. Yeah. And also too, you could also consider it if it's like if if it's a system where you have 5 drivers that all have to put in a lap to find out who was the fastest, if one driver gets knocked out, they just like crashes or something, they just pull them out and then just let the other guys do their laps. You're less likely to have like, well, they didn't put in a lap because they couldn't. It's like, no, they have to put in a lap. I just think it would be better. We need to the F1 can take a note from Formula E and IndyCar at this point when it comes to their qualifying. Because those are better. I think they're more exciting, better systems. There's definitely more at stake.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hire us. FIA, we will be your race strategy consultants.
We keep saying
we only require a paltry £500,000 salary. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a $500,000. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a quarter. I'll start with that. Okay.
Give me 100.
Like, give me a quarter mil. I'll start
other.
with that. It's just like that. That'll get me. That'll get me my RAV4, and I'll be able to buy a house, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. You get a RAV4? I mean, RAV4s are nice.
They look
like
great.
The new models, yeah.
Oh yeah, those new ones look great. It's no bigger than my car. They come in 4-wheel drive. They have a color called Lunar Rock. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. And it's a Toyota, which means it'll last forever. So, I just want to get a daily driver that I'm happy with, that I can take camping comfortably and just keep it going forever. I wouldn't be that guy that when I'm 70, I'm like, I bought this back in 23. I have all the service notes,
Oh, I keep them in the glove box, so I might need them.
Binder. Yeah.
I might need them. Yeah.
Well, so as a result of these new changes, we had a very, very, very interesting Q into Q3.
Yeah.
You want to say what happened there, Idris? I'm giving you the honors.
Oh man. Lewis got pole position. It was by 0.003 of a second. I was driving actually at the time. Well, I mean, okay, so
you just steered.
I was not driving. I was passenger in the car, right? And
your wheel fly off while you drive.
Oh my God, he admitted it.
Oh my God, he admitted it.
So, we highly recommend you watch the show. What is it? I forget the name of the show.
Yeah,
it's Tim Robinson. I think you should leave. Tim Robinson, hilarious guy. And you'll understand where that reference came from. But anyways, so I was passenger, right? And I was like just watching this happen, and I promise you all, I saw Lewis beat Max and get pole, and I was like slapping the dashboard and like, oh my god, just screaming, losing my mind because it was just so exciting.
People started, the other people in the cars are screaming, what's going wrong?
Well, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. But no, it was really cool to see, and I think this tire strategy where you're allocating a specific set of tires per each of the qualifying rounds actually played a factor into that, and I think that I would like to see them do this more, just to see what happens. Right? Like you can't just use one race weekend as a data point. You need to do at least a handful to really get a full understanding of what that envelope looks like. So it'd be fun to see what this does in the future. I know it sucks as far as what happened. Breaking podium.
Oh, you're back. You froze there. That's going to be awkward for the video.
Yeah, that, and also it may, because you're recording, it may have missed completely everything I just said.
It did. Yeah. I guarantee you it did.
Yeah,
let's make it time. They could make a timestamp or something here. I don't know how long we've been recording for.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say. I mean, we can sift through it. But anyways, okay, so I'll just repeat it. Yeah. It was great to see. It was great to see Lewis sync everything up in the car there. He was able to get a record-breaking pole position, and that's his 104th pole. That's crazy. It's cool because like Lewis gives off such like rock star vibes, you know.
Yeah.
So like when he was like, it's like posing for camera shots and stuff, you just look at him and be like, oh man, you're so cool, you know. Like that is one thing he has over I think most everyone else on the grid, right? That he just is cool, you know.
Yeah. He is I would say arguably he is the coolest
Yeah.
person on the grid. Like
And
there's
then
nobody cooler than him.
and then Danny Rick is like the dude that you just want to be friends with. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
everyone's got their role.
yeah, no, they do. They do have their role. Hulkenberg is the cousin nobody talks to. Um, Stroll is that person. It's just like, oh god. Like he comes walking over, he wants to talk to you about his Yu-Gi-Oh card collection. You're like,
Oh man.
okay,
Dark
fine,
Magician in defense mode.
Stroll, yeah. And then Fernando is that one uncle that when you talk to him, you find out something crazy and new about his life that you never knew before. Every
Yes.
time you have a conversation,
Yes.
you're like, you did what? He's
Mhm.
just like, yes, I flew a plane over a glacier and crashed, and I found the remains of Amelia Earhart.
And out of respect, I didn't want to disclose her
But out of
location.
I
so-
didn't disclose the location.
It's
so.
just like what?
Yeah, no, no, for sure. We could dive into their full archetypes, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the stage was set because also, as we saw it too, Lando Norris was in third position. Yeah, no, he's in third position. Yeah,
Yeah.
which
That's
is just the McLarens were rockets today.
Man.
At this weekend they
right.
were
The McLaren's
quick.
next level.
Yeah. I mean, did we think this was going to happen at the beginning of the season? No.
Remember a few episodes back, I talked about how McLaren just circled their entire car, right?
Yeah.
So clearly the upgrades worked.
They changed to have a whole car. Yeah.
It's like, that car. It's gonna make some changes.
Yeah, literally the whole thing. And well, it paid off. So
Yeah.
good for them. They are definitely taking Aston's spot at this point, which really
Dude.
it kind of makes me sad.
Yeah.
But I'm also happy for McLaren. I also have I'm just going to plant the flag here so that we can return to it possibly later and be like, he predicted it.
Flag plant. I said flag plant.
This is a Nostradamus moment. So we'll call it my Nostradamus moment. Gabestradamus moment. Lewis has been talking about how happy he is to see McLaren improving and racing again.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Well, part of me is thinking that if Lewis does not want to retire necessarily, but Mercedes wants to mix it up, or maybe if Lewis wants to just end his career on kind of doing a whatever he wants to do kind of thing, I could see Lewis going back to McLaren if they start to improve their car again. I can see it happening. Imagine this. Imagine if towards the end of this season, McLaren is wins one or two races and is consistently maybe a couple of pole positions and is consistently getting two and three finishes. I could imagine Lewis making that decision. I could imagine I can imagine him doing it. I'm not saying he will. Man. Who knows?
This is, I kind of sit on the opposite side of the fence. I'm just thinking, I don't know, because of what Lewis has built with Mercedes. I don't know if he would just walk away from that. So it's gonna go if he does leave, it would be McLaren. It wouldn't be anywhere else.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
He was certainly not racing for Ferrari. No.
Man, I cannot see him at the Scuderia.
No, he wouldn't. Way. He doesn't look good. He wouldn't look good in a red jumpsuit like that either. He'd look good in everything.
No,
but,
the color is more he wouldn't look good in subordinate red, right? He wouldn't look good in you will suppress your personality and post these thirst traps for us all the time. Even though he kind of does that, but not like what the Ferrari PR team does. Some of these thirst traps, I'm like, oh my god, I'm clutching my pearls.
Oh yeah, no, their PR person knows what they know what they're doing.
Like Charles getting out of an ice bath, he's like, oh, the race was so hard on my back, and it's very important. I don't know if that's a good Monte Carlo accent.
They just have him a Monegasque. They have him laying down on a therapy bed with his hand up like this. Oh my god, I saw this clip. I need to send you this clip. Somebody put this clip. It was this is the reaction of a human. I don't know what it was. This is some reality show. There's some buff dude on a California beach, and this guy's just hey, so Jason, your dog just died, and he just goes. and it looks into the camera, and then it does like a and it like freezes the frame. Like remember from that Mad TV sketch with the Abercrombie and Fitch?
Yes, who shares who skins?
It was
skins.
literally that. It was literally
wow.
that, and I was just like, so like I imagine them like. Charles like, I need therapy after that race, and he's just like laying on like a leather couch thing with like his hand over his brow, but like just like shirt, like his button-up shirt's like halfway open. It's just
and
like
got baby oil on his chest.
Right. It's like, I don't just work out my muscles, I also work out my mental health. And it's just like, wearing that shirt, bro? Okay.
Sure.
Well,
we haven't even got to the race yet.
Well, that's what I'm about to do. So great result for Lewis. Unfortunately, like every single person on the internet had predicted the first turn, Max just like took it over, and just he's like a great you know what this season is for Max? This season is every person that's ever played like Gran Turismo and just like wins every single race. It's like, especially
in online lobbies. Oh my god.
It's like if not even online lobbies. It's like when it's like when you get that you get to the race where it's like the only restriction it has is that your engine has to have a turbo. Yeah. And like all of your competitors are in like little like turbocharged hatchbacks, and then you show up with like the Toyota Lamar racer that's got like a twin turbo V12 and 1200 horsepower, and you're just gone. That's Max this season. He is me playing Gran Turismo pretty much like my entire life. It's just I don't know if maybe he has a restart button. He can just like, if he goes off and we maybe we don't know it, maybe this is a simulation. And Max just hits the restart every time he has a bad start, and then we just get the most effective result for him. Who knows? But yeah, he just took right off. But however, I will say, and I did notice this, the McLarens did not let him get away that quickly.
Right. They did a great job keeping with him.
Piastri, I think, stuck behind him within a second for at least like 5 or 6 laps. Which is impressive considering, you know, the Red Bull were like, oh, we brought a bunch of upgrades to this track, and it's just like, it's worth like an extra 1/10 of a second. And I'm like, you know, like you've been more dominant earlier in the season. So
it makes sense, though, that teams would be catching up at this point.
Yeah.
You know? Like, no advantage is ever guaranteed or cemented, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. And McLaren did something right. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams that are trying to look at what McLaren did to try and figure it out. Which, I mean, sure, you know, they should. However, not all was as usual up front. Zhou Guanyu, which, by the way, had a really, really good qualifying finish. I think he qualified 5th or something like that, like, you know, 5th or 6th. He unfortunately pile drive. Well, for one thing, he had an atrocious start. God, it was like
he just slid.
It was like he got caught. It was like he got, well, his start, it looked like he got caught snoozing, because like the lights went out and he would just oh no, and he just you know what I mean? It's
He's like that dude who's texting at the light. Like, clearly you're parked behind them and they're clearly texting, right?
Yeah.
And they look up and it's
Yeah. That's exactly what Zhou Guanyu's start was like. And so subsequently, I think he, you know, he slid into the back of Danny Ricciardo. Yeah. And Ricciardo slid into the back of Ocon, I think, and then he jumped over Gasly.
Yeah.
Came down and his chair split in half.
Yeah, Ocon
from the impact.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is just,
and he had to go to the hospital.
That is ouch. I will say. Yeah, that was a really tough, and unfortunately both Alpines are out.
And that's the second double DNF
in a row. Yeah,
in a row.
For Alpine, they're having a disaster season. And hindsight, you know, Fernando made the right choice to leave. But also, I think it unfortunately artificially kind of messed up Danny Ricciardo's race.
Oh, big time.
Because I think he probably would have done better. He fought back to the position he qualified in after being basically punted by Zhou. I would imagine he probably had some damage from that in the diffuser, which probably slowed him down. So I still don't think that we've gotten to see the full potential of Danny. I just hope that Red Bull's not like, well, he didn't perform, so we're gonna have to swap him again. Like, you know. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
Real talk though, they like Danny. You know, I think he's got at least until the end of the season. So.
Yep. No, it's true. I think he's gonna do well. I think.
I think so.
I think he's gonna. He just needs to get back into the groove of, especially being in that car. I mean, he was literally thrown into the fire, and he walked across the coals. Okay, so. Yeah. But
so yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we're gonna have to now come to our favorite, most popular reoccurring segment, Mamma Mia Scuderia. I mean, oi. I don't know what the right expression is, but ugh, okay.
Just this, like hand emoji.
It's just
this,
what
like,
are you guys?
I mean, how is Sainz faster than Leclerc, and then you don't even switch them? This is not the first time they've done this season.
We are checking.
Every single time.
I know.
The rear car is faster. They're just like, we don't want to change it.
We don't know. We are checking. Yes, I have no idea what. Like, I don't know who is their strategist. Like, is it like it just sounds like somebody who just does not want to take any risks. You know what I mean? It's like there's no risks being taken at Ferrari, you know, and maybe it's because every time they took a risk, it was a disaster. And so now they're just like, oh, we just want to exist and survive. It's like, you guys got to try some stuff, man. Especially if Carlos is on the soft tires.
I know. It's just unbelievable.
And I think Charles is on the hards. And I'm like, what are you doing? Give him, like, they're wasting his tires. And then later on, too, like, there was this whole thing where Charles was asking them about strategies. It's like, oh, so, like, what am I supposed to, like, what are we going to do? And he's like, we will discuss after. And he's like,
right.
What do you mean after?
What do you mean
like,
after
let's talk about it now.
race?
It's like, we're going to talk later about it. It's just like, it sounds like a parent being like, or like a teacher being like, we're going to talk about this after class. Okay. It's
unbelievable.
Like, no, well, why can't, what's the homework? We're going to talk about it after class. Charles.
I think that was a radio message where it sounded like Leclerc was crying. I don't know if you can get a clip of that and insert it, but it was so sad. It was like, I am so confused. I don't know what is going on. It's like, at first, I couldn't understand him because it was just so garbled, and like he must have been just taking some crazy G's, some G loading at that point. But man, I mean, if he were really crying during that radio message, though, it would make sense given just how Ferrari continues to treat him and his boy Sainz. Like, I am just in constant disbelief. And then a 9-second pit stop. 9-second pit stop for Leclerc. Nice.
Yeah. He could. It's like that pit stop. It's like in a Talladega Nights, so the driver gets out. It's like, come on, geez, guys, I gotta take a whiz. We're in last place. Get off my ass. He's like sitting down eating a chicken burger or something. It's like, what are you doing, guys? Yeah, I'm almost at this point where I'm just wondering, like, are both of them gonna leave at the same time? Is Ferrari gonna clean house, or are they gonna hold? Like, who's the one that's gonna end up leaving first? Like, who would you think is gonna do it?
I think Leclerc would leave first. I think who would take Sainz? I think Sainz can drive. I don't know if he would be considered to be like a top, like, oh, we got to get Sainz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough. I think
as much as I like him.
Yeah, I think he's worth it. I just don't think that he's been given an opportunity, which is
to show it. Yeah,
which is, you could say that for a lot of drivers, but like, you know, you look at somebody like, you know, like, I think if Carlos was in the Aston Martin, he'd probably be doing a lot better. You know what I mean? I just think the Ferrari is just wallowing right now. They're just they're spiraling, and I don't. it's just this isn't their season, and who knows if next will be their season either. I mean, who knows? You know.
You know when their last season was though?
2012.
2007, man, when they won the championship.
Yeah,
right?
I guess it's true. They were
Like-
really competitive in 2012 with Alonso, which was a great season to watch.
But see, that's the problem with Ferrari, right? They're competitive, and then they're like that person who's like running a race, right? And then they see the finish line coming up, and they're just like, "All right, I'm good."
Or they celebrate preemptively, and
Yes.
then Max Verstappen just like sprints past them
Yes.
at the last second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
the
they-
tortoise in the hare kind of thing, you know?
Yes. Yeah. They get caught
They did-
sleeping a lot. And
they
I
did
think
the
it's
same-
because they're like, we're Ferrari.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Seb, right?
Mm.
Like Sebastian Vettel should have won. What was it, 2017, 2018? I can't remember. I think it was
Oh.
2017. Like, and then when he spun out in Germany, it was just his season was over at that point, right?
Yeah.
He was like really, really giving it to Lewis and Mercedes,
Yes.
and like they were just exchanging blows back and forth. It was a great season to watch.
Yeah.
But then when he spun out there, it was just kind of game over.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was the year after where Seb started losing faith in them,
Mhm.
right? Because of the whole engine cheating scandal, which I think everyone at this point has pretty much like
Forgotten
acknowledged
about.
that, yeah, they were just like, well, forgotten about, but also acknowledged that, yeah, they were cheating with their engine and they were burning like oil, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was a really interesting era. I'm saying all this because I want Ferrari to be good and actually like execute on that ability of being good and execute on that promise of we are Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
Because I
You
feel
know-
like if Ferrari is good, it's okay to throw stones at them. You know what I mean?
well, Ferrari is really good at playing the kind of the anti-hero or like the bad
Yes.
guy. Their confidence and their smarminess is really, they do it really well when they're winning.
Yeah.
To where it feels like, oh wow, those Ferraris, I'm gonna get
Mm-hmm.
you. But when it's Red Bull, it's just kind of like, oh guys, really?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially from like Christian Horner, where he's just so smarmy and like just kind of
Snarky.
he's real snarky. They're real sassy over there. And then they got like a weird racist grandpa. And it's just like, it's like, I just, there's something about it that just feels like,
Off.
it feels like that one sports team. It feels like everybody is like a high school football team up against that one rival team that's really smug. They got a slightly larger marching band. Their snack table that the parents provide is way more well funded than yours.
Oh yeah.
So like it's all that sort of stuff where you don't like them because they're kind of smug and they're better equipped. It's
Sure.
just like it's just I think everybody is perpetually supports the underdog. But when Hamilton was winning with Mercedes, it was cool to watch because you're just like, oh man, because they also like conducted themselves in such a way that didn't feel like. It just felt like they were just that good. They just, it's like watching the one athlete that's like a really nice guy that's just so much faster than everyone. You're like, well, he's clearly going pro. You know what I mean? And you just can't help but admire it. And I think that's sort of where I'm at with it. As far as the Red Bull dominance of this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay. Well, speaking of Red Bull dominance, this ended up in another win for your boy, Mr. Verstappen.
Fish sticks Vanderkamp. Yeah.
Fish Vanderkamp. I mean, it was really good though to see just how dominant they are, and it's just I shouldn't say really good. It's just this is just another example of just how dominant they are, and I mean, first off, kudos to them for just having such a beast of a machine. And having a driver who is capable of like handling it right, and pulls out all the performance he's able to out of that thing. I mean, Checo was just tearing through everyone though. When he finally got on like a good set of tires after the hards, I think he got off of the hards and went to the mediums maybe. Yeah, because I think they had multiple stops, right? And he was able to get up to P3, right? So that was really good. Fascinating to see just him tear through and kind of have like a mission drive, a mission statement drive, I should say.
Yeah. I think if Hamilton had one or two extra laps, he would have gotten
Dude.
Perez.
100%. Yeah, I think so.
I also want to acknowledge, Norris had his second podium finish in a row. McLaren finished right up at the top, which is wonderful for them. They had a great race. It was really awesome to see Piastri out there too. Piastri conducted himself very professionally, and I think it goes to show, like, some of these, like, the rookies, like, like Piastri, they was the one that everybody was fighting for, and I think he is the. I think if there's anybody that's going to be the rookie of the season, it's going to be
Him.
Piastri.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Because
He doesn't.
Nick DeVries is gone. He's not even in the running anymore.
And Sargent hasn't made a good showing.
Yeah, he spun out. He was like the only person that spun out in the race. So, yeah, kudos to Piastri. I also noticed in his driving style, when he was driving, he's very smooth driver.
Yes.
His movement on the steering wheel is very calculated and very smooth, which is some world championship shit. I mean, that's like Fernando Alonso is just as smooth. Jenson Button is also super smooth, like Hamilton too. Like, you can usually tell if they have to wrestle the car, because if they're seeing their hands moving all over the place, it's like, oh, that's a rough car. But if they got a smooth, confident car, you see that they're not aggressive. Like, Carlos is very aggressive. I think Danny is very aggressive. But a lot of these guys are real smooth operators and real smooth drivers. So it was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I think the only thing I don't know if you saw, I certainly noticed, during the podium celebrations, Lando knocked over Max's trophy.
What was that? What was that? Okay, so like watching it, right? It looked like he was just trying to shake up the bottle, but it also looked like he was purposely trying to like whack the trophy, right? Did it look like that?
He probably had champagne in his eyes and he didn't notice because he just knocked it over.
Okay, so someone posted on the Formula One subreddit like a side view of that from where the fans were standing in the fan zone, right? Watching the podium ceremony. And it looked like he just kind of like looked around and then just goes, BAM! and shatters it. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, what?
Oh my God! He's gonna have to run over there and give Red Bull some super glue or something, like to put it back together. That would be a funny video for McLaren. And like, if you imagine if McLaren and Red Bull did a joint video together, where it's like Norris comes over to the Red Bull pits or walks into their facilities with a bottle of super glue, and it's like, okay, let's do this. It doesn't have to be the real thing too. They can just stage a faked one, and just have the real one reproduced or whatever. But I think that would be kind of a history thing. It'd be like, fun fact, like, this this trophy was broken by Lando Norris in his second ever podium finish, or whatever. And you see like the really terrible Gorilla Glue like swole parts in it, I think that would be kind of fun. That would be a video.
Just lean into it. Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yeah. But man, I agree with you about Piastri. He is absolutely just so composed under pressure, right? And I said this last episode, he just seems to really have a good feel for what he needs to be doing. Maybe that year off helped him just just find some zen that he could utilize in his racecraft. And he's just so cool and collected. It's really, really cool to watch, and he's going places.
Yeah, well, I think he's definitely arrived onto the scene after his reaction shot from that guy with the rockets falling over at the Austrian Grand Prix. That was like a funny moment. You remember, dude, he was like drinking his drink, he like give the side eye to the camera. It's like, okay. I think, and also now that he has like
funny.
Yeah. Well, I also think that now he's got a quick car. I think it is genuinely showing like that he is somebody that knows how to handle himself. And he can, is managing a race and is, dealing with the pressures of the circumstance again. So
yeah. Speaking of the rocket, dude, how did we not talk about that the last episode?
Rocket Man burning on a fuse out here with gold. Oh God,
dude! Like, it happened, and then when it cut to first off, like, the director of photography knew exactly what they were doing when they cut to Piastri. He's just like, He was all of us at that moment, right?
He was.
Because I saw it and I was just like, wait,
What is happening?
did that just happen? Was that live?
I hope that guy's okay, but jeez. Oh my gosh.
If you don't
It's
know
like-
what we're talking about, it was the Austrian Grand Prix, right?
Yes.
At the Austrian Grand Prix, before the race, they had like a rocket troop, and it's jetpack guys, right? So they have like some jetpacks they invented from I think it's some tech bro who has some company that they do that. It's clearly like a tourism type of thing. It's not like mainstream, commercially produced, available for anyone to buy. But there's like 5 or 6 of them like flying down the track as if they're like, running a race. And I think it was the lead dude who just like ate it.
He just binned it.
It was just
One of his rockets on his arm like failed, and he just like, well, and he just goes down. Like, no salvaging this. Like, I wish somebody should have put like highway to the danger zone like over that whole thing. Had I known in hindsight, like I would have.
oh man, Top Gun Maverick in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think I only really have one more note to say about this race. That one point I kind of want to talk about or bring up. It's something that was a carryover from the last race too. I think it's something that Crofty has talked about. I think that they need to they made changes to the qualifying, which is great. They need to make changes to the DRS and how it operates.
Yes. Yep.
Because there were 2
100%.
DRS zones, 1 activation zone. Most of the drivers would pass after the first long straight and then would be ahead of the other driver and then get the DRS again to
Yes.
further push their advantage so that the person behind them could not fight back. And it's also like, I mean, not even just that. It's just the fact that it doesn't matter what position the driver is in front of you. Even if it's a back marker, it could be last place. And Max would still be able to follow up behind them and use DRS in 2 zones. And I don't like that. I don't think that the DRS needs to be abolished. I don't think it needs to be getting rid of, because I think that it is an interesting aspect and it can help with certain passes, and it can, it kind of gets exciting when it's like, oh, like he's within a second, he can use DRS. Like it suddenly becomes this exciting thing.
Right.
I just think it needs a time restriction. I just think that you should only be able to use it so many times, before you can't use it.
It's like in Mario Kart when you get that gold mushroom. Once it's done,
yeah, it's done.
Can't use it anymore.
You can only use it so much, and unless you get another one. But like, we're not going to put transparent cubes out on the track. But yeah,
I mean, we have jetpack dudes. Why not?
He's the one. He just shows up at the beginning of the race, like
He's the Lakitu.
Yeah, he's got the cloud and like a hoisting up the cars. Yeah, no, I think the DRS is something that needs to be changed. I think that it would be more interesting if they had a time restriction, because then some drivers might not have it, some might use it up too quick, some might save it until the very end. I can imagine Max like never really needing to use it until somebody tries to challenge him, and then maybe they can hold on long enough and he used up his DRS and suddenly, and they still had a little bit in the tank and they managed to pass him. Like, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a better use of that system. So
or get rid of DRS altogether. I know that's maybe not right. It really comes down to are the cars powerful enough to overtake each other on track? And, so I don't know.
Who knows?
It's a question mark. Absolutely.
It is a question mark. Oh, and also the last note I had was I actually forgot how much I do enjoy this track. Even though this race was a little processional, to a certain extent, it is still a very fun track. Good elevation changes, great. There's a couple of really, really good passing zones. It has had some really spectacular races in the past, and I did hear that it is going to be on the calendar at least until 2032. So we're going to get quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
With it.
No, it's good. It's good to have like some mainstays, some staples that we always see on the calendar from year to year.
Yeah.
Hungaroring, if it went away, it'd be a bummer because it's a really fun track. And I mean, the qualifying showed some really good racing, you know, and even the race today with some overtaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the only other note I want to add is just that Nico Rosberg had a dope ass shirt during that post race interview. That was ballin'. Did you see that thing?
I didn't see it.
Man,
I'm gonna have to look it up.
excellent.
Yeah. I like. Well, you know what? Go buck wild with it. Like, let's get all glamorous. I also like that Nico Rosberg was defending Lewis a little bit from Christian Horner during the post qualifying, because like Christian was like, oh well, you know, Max had a little off, and you know, but he still managed to get the lap together, and Rosberg was like, yeah, Lewis also had a little off too, so like it's probably closer than you're thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe they're becoming best friends again. Who knows?
Maybe.
Secretly, you know.
Maybe
that's who Hamilton's secretly dating is Rosberg.
And it feels so good.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, please do so. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter, all at F1 or F Off. You can also send us an email at F1 or F Off podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps us out a lot. We would love you forever. And be sure to share it with your friends, your family, and as I said before, your enemies, that weird creeper on the bus, your coworker Diane who works in HR, the whole accounting department, the guy that bags your groceries. Just let them all know.
Yeah, let them know. Also, I was just saying that's a commitment. Like, love you forever. That's a long time. That is more than a year.
I got a lot of love in the tank. You know, I don't need to be tapping into my reserves just yet. If I'm being honest. So,
yeah, no cost cap with our love.
No capping, all bussing.
Bus it.